Making a template object with Animate Pro is it's a useful way that we can recycle our artwork between scenes. So we can create multiple scenes to work within our project. Now, to do this, there's a few specific things that we need to do to prepare our artwork for moving to a new scene or project. And to do that, we need to have the layers that we're working with here all under the control of a single peg object. So to do that, I'm going to to make it easier, I will add my network to the center view here so that I can both clean it up as well as then add in. If I want all of these objects controlled by a single peg, I could do it while I'm in the timeline view here. I could click on one layer and I could click on the peg. But if I go to the plus and say I want to add a peg, I get this super obnoxious, annoying error message that says I can't add the peg in my display mode, meaning I can't add it when I'm in my camera view. The only place I can add a standalone peg is inside my network view. It's one of the issues with the program. It's not really an issue, it's just how it's designed. Because if I added a peg here, but it wasn't a peg attached to or controlling an existing layer, the program is left with the, well, then what's it doing, and then how am I supposed to respond to this? It doesn't know. If I have a layer that's active and if I add a peg, that peg is now controlling that layer. Now, theoretically, I could then take and pull other layers up under the control of that. I can rename this peg to be, say, my face master. You know, so I could do something like that if I wanted, and then if I look in the network view, we'll see how it's starting to, that's now controlling it. But I can't, if I go here and choose peg, I get that message of saying, I don't know what you mean. If no layers are active and I hit the add peg, I get the same message, which is you're trying to add an orphan peg. It doesn't like orphans. But in the network view, we do have the option in the network view, I can just hit Command P, it adds in a peg. I now have this peg that then I can connect. So the network view doesn't have any issues with floating pegs. So I can put as many pegs in as I see fit. They don't even have to be connected to each other. And it has no problems with, look at, we have these floating pegs that are just out there in space not doing anything. The network view doesn't care. You can clutter your network with all kinds of abandoned orphan things. It's like, yeah, whatever. Big whoop, I don't care. No harm, no foul. But the layer view, it gets a little more frustrated when you try and do things like that. So now I have a peg here, and now it's controlling it. La-di-da, look at that. That peg's controlling my whole thing. All is happy and right with the universe. And it's a good thing. Somehow the nose is on. Oh, my layers changed when I started dragging them up before. I don't want the nose on top. I want head, mouth, nose, and then we can have an eye, another eye. And just organize this up, and it looks all nice and pretty. Now I can go back to my camera view. We can see nothing's changed. We've got our different views set up. But I do have this peg that is now controlling this head. If I collapse that peg, so now we just see that peg, we can see there it is. And then at each of these points, I am now changing positions. Now the next thing that we need to do is we need to add in a keyframe for each one of these different poses or drawings that we work with. So the first is we add a peg and get all the layers under the control of the peg. Collapse the layers so we just see the peg, and that makes it really easy to then hit F6, I insert my keyframe, hit F6, I insert a keyframe, hit F6, insert a keyframe. If I don't want them to be the motion keyframes, I can set them as stop motion keyframes. So then I just get the little dot, so it's nice and pretty, the lines go away. And the reason for doing that will become apparent when I take and bring this into a new file and show how we can work with it. We could even add additional, I can put 2, 3, 4 copies of this head into a new file and then change which pose is showing where and work with it. And it's actually a really cool way of working. Now, I have extra frames occurring between these. If I had additional drawings, maybe in the front view I would have the eyes could have additional drawings where they're blinking and doing stuff like that. I could, you know, leave that in the timeline so you can scrub through and go, oh yeah, these are the different drawings I have access to. If you have a character with an arm, you could have different hands, and you could now show those different hands on these additional frames occurring here, which, for that matter, why just talk about it? Why not actually just do it? So let's see, I'll go into the eye here, and I will insert an empty drawing under the eye. Click come here. Let's see. Empty drawing, there we go. The eye went away. Grab my paintbrush, grab some purple, and he's now blinking. Go to this eye here, insert the... So in the front view, he's able to blink, which lines up pretty nicely. Okay. Collapse it under the peg again. So now I have some additional drawings. I could have additional mouths. If I had a talking character, I could have mouth shapes. If I had a acrobatic character, maybe there's additional drawings that I would want for different body parts as part of it. So once we do this, then we're set to turn this into a template that we can then bring into other projects. Now, I added in customized colors here to show you that when we bring this into a new project, the color palette will transfer with it as well. So this can be another way to get colors into a new project. So when the question came up of how can I move palettes, that bringing in a artwork asset with different colors as part of it will allow you to do it. Now, the magic takes place inside our library. I'm just gonna collapse this down, pull that up a little bit. So inside the library right now, we'll see that we have the symbols folder, and then you have this other folder which has a lock on it, which is, if I put my cursor over it, we'll see that is my local Animate Pro folder. That's the default location where the application is installed on the computer. There's a lock on it because it's trying to be nice to you and prevent you from screwing things up. The symbols folder is a place where I could now store this as a symbol, and it would be something I could recycle within this project. But I couldn't get it into a different scene or an additional project. So symbols can be useful if you're working with a character and you realize you have a certain body parts or other things you want to recycle through it, clouds, planes, trains, automobiles, that you're using within a scene, but you don't need to move them to additional scenes, then symbols work really well for doing that. But you don't need symbols to be able to animate. But making a template object is something you often do because you're moving things between scenes. Now, when I look over here, I'll see that's not a lot of folder options. I don't see my desktop, I don't see my flash drive, I don't see my nothing. But Animate Pro refers to folders on your computer, which includes drives, any flash drives, hard drives, extra drives. It refers to all of those as a library. So if I choose Open Library, Open Library comes up, and you'll notice how I have all kinds of things. I could choose my Documents folder. I can choose the desktop. I could go and choose my storage drive on this computer, and I could even go and find a folder within that and claim that as well and say, I want to store things there. So I'm actually going to store it in a place where I can now keep this for my next, so that it's not gone when the computer reboots. So I am going to grab my animation folder here and say, that's a good starting place, and then I'm going to make a new folder within that, and I will refer to this as templates. So now there's the templates folder, and I'll say choose. If I choose that, there's templates. We can see there's nothing in it right now because, well, I didn't put anything in it yet. there's something else going on, is it's locked. Now if I want to add my template to it, puts a little lock icon up and says, no, sorry, you can't do that. By default, when you have access to libraries or folders, they're locked so that you don't screw things up accidentally. The program is asking for you to be intentional. If I right-click and choose Write to modify, the lock goes away. Now, once the lock has gone away, this layer, which has keyframes, which has a master peg controlling all of my artwork, I can now go and drag this over. And it's asking me to give it a name, and I will call this Green Face. And it's giving it an extension of .tpl. So greenface.tpl, it's in my templates folder. All right, I am going to save this project. The project itself is saved on the desktop. So I have my original project on the desktop. I saved Greenface in my templates folder on my storage drive. So if I now go and choose save, oh, no, wrong that, choose new, make a new project, comes up, there's my new project, nothing's there, but if you notice, templates is still there. So if you add your flash drive as in, open a library and choose your flash drive, you'll have access to the files on your flash drive right now. When these computers reboot, it will forget that you did that, so you'll have to do that each time. On your own computers that aren't frozen, it won't forget that. So right now, because I haven't rebooted the computer, it still remembers, hey, I added the templates folder to it. So my laptop, which isn't frozen, has all kinds of folders that come up in my library as I've added things over the years to it. I really need to get rid of a bunch of them, but they're there. So if at this point, I don't even need to right-click on it because I'm not trying to add to it. But if I take and pull out a green face there it is. We can see it added it to my project. If I take and pull it out again, we'll see I have a second version of green face occurring. You can even grab it. So we can see, there they are. I have two. Notice they kept their keyframes and their frames, so all of their artwork and everything is still there. So to repeat that, oh, wrong part. Going to delete that layer, delete this layer. All right, so if I drag green face out, there's green face ready to go. Now if I decide that this one I only want to be my front view, okay, there it is, front view. If I drag green face out again, so we can now see how I have my two views. And they're even on separate layers, making it really easy to control them. Can drag out a third one. So I could have an entire army of green face things going on right now if I were so motivated. And that'd be okay. And by this particular concept of having each view on a separate layer is referred to as separated timelines. Now technically, did I need to keep them on separate layers or not? No. Just going to turn off all of those. Let's go drag it out again, because I can have this here. We can see now I have this view, and I have this view, but there's nothing to say that I can't take that keyframe for that view and now it's there. So I can even just take these keyframes and move them over. Because all that's happening on those keyframes is it's adjusting which drawing So if I click here, it's adjusting which drawing is being exposed. In this case, which eyeball am I looking at? Oh, don't want that one. That's not the right view. So we can change it. But by keeping it in the peg view here, it keeps our pieces together quite nicely. So we can do separated timelines, or right now I'm doing it all on a single timeline. It really doesn't matter. You can kind of do what you want with it. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that once I have done this, so this head shape for the head looking left, it's possible for me to go grab color, and you can see how the color came in with it. So we can see I put a big X on the left view. If I look at the left view, this one does not have the X on it. So though they started from the same template, they're now separate things. So each one of these, what is now under Peg 1, Peg 2, and Peg 3, are in essence complete, separate, unrelated to each other objects. So if I change one, it does not change the others, which is good and bad. If you decide, oh, I want to change my character around, changing the template does not change your any places that you used a template. So it's not like there's no linkage between the template and instances of use. Inside my storage folder where I saved it, we can see there is the template, and it saved that file as a template object. So you can make templates and recycle them between projects to your heart's content, share them with other people. It's also possible to go online and find templates that other people make and utilize those for learning purposes as well. So you can find where other people have made complex character templates, and you can download those and import them into a project and use them.